Yo, what's happening, Raider Nation? It's your boy Soto here. You know what it is. Raiders versus the world. Talking about the team that the world loves to hate, your Las Vegas Raiders. All right, we've done a lot of draft stuff, okay? We've done some mock drafts. We've looked at other people's mock drafts. We looked at early picks. We looked at second-round picks. We looked at areas of need. It can get exhausting. But before we move on, I want to make sure everyone please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. It's a great way to support. It's absolutely free. And it's the bare minimum you can do to support this channel besides doing absolutely nothing and just watching the video, which, of course, I always do appreciate. But just go ahead and subscribe. Everyone's doing it. You should do it too. All right, getting back to the draft. So a lot of people have 1-round mocks, 2-round mocks. All that stuff is great. I think you need to hit these home runs early. You hit the home runs early with the high ceiling players. That's how you really get the superstars on your squads. But one of the main reasons why the Raiders only won 4 games last season was they didn't have a lot of depth. And we kind of knew that going in, where we're kind of top heavy. We had decent starters. We had good starters across both sides of the ball. But when those guys went down, the guys behind them either weren't ready to go or they just weren't that good. So the third day is the day that you really fill out your roster and you can really find some gems. Okay, I've poured over tape. I've read a lot of scout stuff. Trust me, a lot of the scout stuff starts to look the same after a while. But you have to look at a couple different things. If you really want to find these guys that are like the diamonds in the rough, right? If you want to find these guys, you have to look for a few things. One, you have to look for measurables. You have to look for something you can hang your hat on, especially if you're a late round guy, because more often than not, if you're kind of a skilled type position, you're going to be playing special teams. So you have to hang your hat on something, all right? After that, look at physical measurables. If this guy didn't perform, why didn't he perform? Does he have the frame for it? Can you coach him up? Did he excel, in his last season, but he didn't have a couple of great first? Like, what was the issue? Talk to a lot of coaches, talk to a lot of people in the programs. You really have to dig in deep with some of these day 3 guys because they're out there. Maybe they had an issue going on at home. Maybe they had an issue because a lot of these guys never been out of their own neighborhoods. They go off to college and they just either they don't know how to act or they miss home and they didn't acclimate very well right away. They're not used to hard coaching. Some of these coaches give them hard coaching. They're not used to it. There's a lot of different reasons why some of these guys didn't perform up to where maybe their physical capabilities were in college. Super lot of reasons, right? But that's why you talk to a lot of the coaches. That's why you talk to some teammates. That's why you talk to some peripheral coaches, people that are in the program, athletic directors, other guys that are a part of the programs as well, to really get to know these guys, really get to know the people, the person behind the stats, the person behind the production. Once you do that, you put the tape on and say, okay, let me see some flash. Let me see some flashes. Show me what you can do on film, and then we can work about getting it more consistent. It all comes together in the stew. All the pieces of the puzzle come together, right? You have to get all the big rocks and the little rocks make the wall that secures your castle. So you need them all, okay? It's not all about hitting in the first round, you're going to be a great team. No, you have to hit on day 3 as well. So I've identified 5 day 3 prospects who are in positions of need for the Raiders. I want to take a look at a couple of these guys and, see what they look like. All right, it's no secret out there that we had one of the worst running back rooms in the league last year. It just didn't come together. It wasn't all the offensive line. Our running back room either was vastly underperformed, was injured, or just didn't play well, and we expected more than what they showed us in the past. I don't know. It wasn't good at all, but it wasn't bad. It was terrible, okay? We were the worst rushing team in the NFL, and I'm not going to let all the blame on the offensive line. The running backs we need to get more talent in the running back room. So the first guy I have for a day 3 prospect is a running back out of Virginia Tech. His name is Bashal Tutin. Now, he went to North Carolina A&T to start off his career. Then he moved over to Virginia Tech, and he kind of blew up from there. His stature is not going to overwhelm you, okay? He's like 5'9", 200 pounds. Dude ran a 4.3 40, okay? He can freaking move. A 4.3 40 at 200 pounds, that's a lot of force coming at you. Last season, he had 1,159 yards. That's 6.3 yards per carry. He had 15 rushing touchdowns and also a couple of receiving touchdowns, so he can receive the ball out of the backfield. But one of the main ingredients for Tootin is the fact that he had 2 kickoff returns in 2023. So he brings a lot of value in the return game on special teams. That's huge because you have to be able to get yourself on the field somehow if you're a late round pick. You have to be able to find a way, your niche, to get on the field. And I think special teams is the way that Tootin can get on the field right away. Kid's got some raw talent, man. He's just electric with the ball in his hands in space. The issue is he needs to refine a couple of things in his game. First off, if he's going to be more of a receiving threat out of the backfield, he needs to get better at pass protection. He needs to be able to identify blitzes and be a better blocker. Just if you can't protect the quarterback, you can't be on the field, especially on obvious passing downs. You have to be able to take care of your guy behind you before he gets you the ball. Now, if you talk about like scheme fit and stuff like that, he's more of like a zone scheme guy, which Chip Kelly does like to run a lot of zone concept, and he loves being in space. You get him the ball in space, this dude can make some things happen. That's when you're really going to see that return game when he gets the ball in space, even on regular downs. He's tough to bring down, he's shifty, and he accelerates to top speed within a couple of steps. I haven't seen anything like this guy in quite some time at this size. You see a lot of the smaller guys, a lot of thinner frame guys, maybe some of the DBs or some of the smaller receivers that can really get up to speed quickly. This dude's 200 plus, and he can get to speed within a few steps. And it's a really big plus, not only the return game, but the screen game that Chip Kelly likes to run, the little dump off passes and stuff like that, getting the guys in space. If you can do that with Tootin, he can really make some big damage for you on offense. He was hampered by a little ankle injury in 2024, but he still gained some good stats. I think everything's going to be okay. If he checks out okay, he could be a massive grade 3 steal. I'm talking about if you get a guy like this in like the 5th round or even the 6th round, like this guy, not a lot of guys are talking about him, man. He's a kind of an under the radar type of guy, but if you take a look at his stats, you take a look at the value he brings in the return game, and you take a look at what he can do catching the ball, it's really what we're looking for in a player, like a bunch of different areas that we need help in the return game. Yes. You need a third down back. Yes. You need a guy that can spell and run between the tackles too. Yes. A guy that can excel in space. Yes. This guy can do all of those things. So Bashal Tootin is a guy to look at, running back from Virginia Tech. I think he has day 3 steal written all over him for us at running back. All right, sticking to offense, okay, because the offense was a really big problem last season, and we need a receiver, okay? I like big receivers. I like guys that have measurables, that can go out there and be bullies, and not only in the blocking game, but also in the passing game as well, if you're a receiver, right? What do they say? No block, no rock, right? You got to be able to block too. Now, this guy at a TCU, Savion Williams, is a like measurables freak. Dude is like 6'5", 220 pounds, runs a 4.4 840. So his measurables really line up to Tet McMillan, to T-Mac. And he isn't quite as refined as T-Mac. As much as T-Mac needs to be a little bit more polished up in some of his route running abilities, Savion Williams is a little bit behind that. So that's why it's really dropping him back. One of the other things as well with Savion Williams is despite his super great measurables, he didn't have this crazy production. Last season, he had 60 catches for 611 yards, and he had 6 touchdowns. But he had 322 rushing yards, a 6.3 average, and another 6 rushing touchdowns. This guy, when you get the ball in his hands, he runs. Even though he's 6'5", 220, he runs like a running back, okay? He's tough to bring down. He doesn't shy away from contact, and he kind of has a little shiftiness to him as well. He's a long strider, and he gets into his top speed right away. So these are all good things. He does need some help and refinement. He's not going to be a day 1 starter right away. But this guy has all the measurables you're looking for in an outside X receiver. If you can develop him, if you can show him the way, if you can have guys like Jacoby Myers and these guys to be able to kind of teach him some of the art of the route running, right? And be able to work on his hands a little bit and get his hand-eye coordination a little bit better, you're going to have yourself a steal in the late rounds. Now, people are saying, oh, this is a weak wide receiver class. It's a weak wide receiver class. Look, I wouldn't say it's weak. It's just not very top heavy. There's only like maybe a handful, 3-4 guys that are going to be like, that would normally be rated in the top 1 or 2 rounds. But there's a lot of depth after that. It kind of plateaus where you can get your guy in like the 3rd round or a guy in the 6th round, and they're pretty much the same guy. So Savion Williams out of TCU is a guy who has the measurables. He has the ability. He just needs to refine a few things. And if he can do that under your watch, you're going to have yourself a gem in the third day. All right. So I know some of you guys might be sick of hearing me talk about this, but I feel we need more help on the interior offensive line. That's just my feeling. I like to have big bruising guards, big bruising centers. I like to have nimble, tall, athletic tackles. That's just how I envision a strong offensive line. What I don't want are guys that are just like, meh, right? I don't like meh, especially in my interior. I want guys that are like brutes. I want the brute squad. I want those guys. That's what I want in my interior offensive line. I want guys who would get up in guys' chests and can move some bodies. Now, along those lines, not quite a brute, but a really good prospect is Joshua Gray out of Oregon State. He's 6'5", a little over 300 pounds. Now, he ran a 5.0440. That's pretty good for a guy 6'5", 300 running a 5 flat. But even more impressive than that, his 10-yard split was 1.7, which is pretty good for an offensive lineman. Gray is super athletic, man. He's not like one of these like hulking guys. Like when you look at him, he looks like he's a decently sized guy, but he gets up closer, you're like, oh man, this guy's 6'5", and he's that big. So he's not going to have that like flap over belly or anything like that. He does need to get a little bit more stout at the point of attack, but his athleticism and his technique really help him out. He's not going to get pushed back because he is 6'5" and over 300 pounds, and he has that nice punch to be able to keep and stand his ground on the interior. Right now, he's a better pass blocker than a run blocker, and that's okay because he's not terrible against the run. He's not like going to be a liability or anything. He just needs to maybe add a little bit of muscle, add a little bit of bulk. He's going to keep the athleticism because he's used to being 6'5", walking around over 300. Okay, so he's going to be able to add a little bit of meat to him and still keep that athletic ability. In the run game, he kind of wins right now with like tenacity over talent, okay? But you get him a little bit more technique, and you have all three T's there. You have tenacity, you have talent, and you have technique. You can do that, and you can build the guy up. This is a great frame in the latter rounds. You can get this dude probably in like the 6th round. If he's available out there to get in the 6th round, I think Joshua Gray would be a steal for anyone because you don't see many guys 6'5", 300 pounds with his kind of athletic ability. He was like a 4-year starter with Oregon State, so he has a lot of experience. He's played a lot of football. He's seen a lot of things. He's moldable. I think it could be a great addition to any offensive line. It just so happens we're looking for a guy in the middle. All right, now we're going to switch over to the defensive side. I know a couple of us have been a little bit concerned about what's going on at linebacker. Now, Landon Roberts, I like him very much, but what else do we have behind that? We have some couple second-year guys, some young kids, stuff like that. What are we going to do for the future going forward? Because I don't think any of these guys at linebacker, aside from a Landon Roberts, seem to be necessarily a playmaker or anything like that. That's where Francisco Maigawa comes in, the linebacker out of Miami. He's 6'2", about 230, so he needs to get a little bit bulkier to be able to handle some of those offensive linemen in the NFL. But, man, this guy packs a punch, and he can move. At that size, he ran a 4.640, which is pretty good for a linebacker. I'm going to get these stats right for you guys, okay? He had 96 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a pick, 5 pass defense, and a forced fumble. This guy was all over the field last year in Miami. This dude was like, whenever you see a play being made, you saw Francisco Maigawa up there. He was ready to make the play. If not, he was right behind it. This is like a typical of a guy that you see that's going to like far outperform his draft position. He's going to be drafted later in the draft, and you're going to be like, wow, how is this guy still available? And you take him, and he's a guy that you kind of thought he was. He's the same guy that you saw on tape. It's just for whatever reason, he's not a sexy pick. He doesn't really excel in any one position, but he's always around the ball, and he's a sure tackler. If you're playing more of a 3-4 technique, he's going to be a Mike or a Will in that type of lineup. Or if you're playing a straight 4-3, he's going to be a Will linebacker for you. He's going to be able to get things done with like his speed overall and his instincts. He's got great instincts. He beats linemen to the spot. He's not going to blow up any offensive lineman, right? He's not big enough to do that. But he beats him to the spot, and he spears through, and he gets ball carriers behind the line of scrimmage, which shows in all his tackles for losses he had last season. He's going to totally start as like a special teams guy, okay? He's going to be a special team standout. I see him having a very similar trajectory like Isaiah Pola-Mao. He was a special team standout. He flashed in like the preseason stuff like that. He played really well when he was given a chance here and there. It's like, and when he gets the opportunity, you're not going to get him off the field. Isaiah Polamalu finally got his opportunity to start at last season, and he showed he's more than capable of being a strong defensive starter for you. This is where this kind of scenario comes into play, okay? Because the linebacker, it's going to be tough to break that linebacking core just because you want to have a lot of continuity there. So once you get in there, you can't let that job go. Margot is going to be able to go in there. He's going to be able to make it happen for himself, but it's going to take a little bit of time. He has to bulk up. He has to get bigger in order to be able to handle some of those interior offensive linemen. Those guys are, we just talked about Joshua Gray. That guy's 6'5", 300 plus. At 6'2", 230, you're not going to be able to handle those big guys like that. You have to be able to shed those blocks because they're going to get on you because they're athletic too. So you're going to have to get a little bit stronger. You have to get a little bit meaner. And I think that's going to happen with time in the NFL for Margoa. All right, despite the fact that we signed quite a few players in the secondary, there still is a glaring need for more corners. I don't care who you are. I don't care what team you have. You're always going to need more corners because the way the ball is passed around in this league and all the rules, you can never have too many nice, measurable, long corners. That's where Jason Marshall Jr. comes into play. He's a big corner out of Florida. And let me know if this sounds familiar, okay? He's 6 foot, 195 with long arms. Does that sound familiar to anybody? I think that's pretty much the MO of what Pete Carroll is looking for in his DBs. He ran a 4.49 40, which is plenty fast enough, especially in this type of scheme. Stats for last season, let's take a look. He had 20 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 4 pass defense, and 1 forced fumble. Initially, yeah, he's going to be a special team star, all right? But he has starter potential with, the measurables to be a lockdown guy. He played some really good games in the SEC against really good competition. He locked down some really good receivers. What I really like about Jason Marshall Jr. is his size, his length, his punch. He has a great punch for a corner. He's a man-to-man press man. This is who he is. He loves playing press man, especially in the red zone. His punch really disrupts a lot of the receivers' routes and be able to kind of disrupt the timing with the quarterback. That's where he does his most business there. Guys don't even really throw his way because the receiver's not where they're supposed to be when Jason Marshall Jr. is on him. So he's not going to be around like in the 6th or 7th round. Like he's probably going to be a 4th round or early 5th round pick. I see him being drafted probably in that main range there. So if we don't get him by the 5th round, we're not going to see him in the 6th. But if we get able to nab him, this guy is going to be a really good player in a few years. He has all the measurables. He has the pedigree. He played at a big-time competition, and he loves to get his hands on receivers and disrupt. That's what we need. That's what kind of defense we're building. Jason Marshall Jr. can definitely be a great addition to this team on defense. All right, guys, that's my time for today. Let me know what you think about the video, man. Let me know what you think about the positions that I selected: running back, receiver, interior offensive line, linebacker, and corner. Let me know what you think about that. Let me know what you think about the players that I outlined. What do you think measurable-wise and production-wise, okay? There's going to be a ton of players at all these different positions, but I identified a few that I think will be available when we pick in our later round picks. Because I'm telling you right now, the day 3 picks is where you can find these gems. You don't want to bank on that because it's so much harder to hit home runs in day 3 than it is days 1 and 2. But if you can sneak a couple in there, not all these guys have to be home runs, man. You get a good double out of a guy. You get a guy who's a rotational player and great on special teams. That's a win on day 3. So don't look for home runs on these guys. And if they happen, they happen. Everyone, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. It's a great way to support. It's absolutely free. And it's the bare minimum you can do to support this channel besides doing absolutely nothing and just watching, which, of course, I always do appreciate. Guys, it's just us. It's Raiders versus the world, man. It's Raiders versus everybody else out there. It's just us, grassroots, growing from the ground up. I really appreciate you guys. Until next time, everybody, peace. Hey, Raider Nation. Thanks for watching. There's plenty more where that came from. Go ahead and smash that like button. Drop a comment. Make sure to subscribe and share to all your socials. It's the bare minimum you can do without doing absolutely nothing.